Hey guys, Professor Bell, Comic Book University, and Superman, issue number 11. First off, I want to start this off by telling you that I'm stupid, or at least I did something stupid, and I hope to correct that now. I made a comment about, I forget if it was this book or if it was Action Comics. Either way, it doesn't matter which comic it is. I said that I was so upset with the comic book that I'm actually going to stop buying the comic book. I'm going to read it at the comic book store and then come home and just do a review on it without the book in my hand because I'm not paying for the book anymore. Let me tell you how stupid that was for me to say, okay? It's basically no different than stealing. You know, just because my comic book store is okay with it doesn't mean that DC Comics would be okay with it. Doesn't mean that Brian Michael Bendis or Ivan Reis or anybody would be okay with it. Stealing is stealing. And at some point, we have to take a high ground and recognize when something is wrong. On top of that, sometimes we have to admit when we're wrong. To me, the best aspect of proving that you are a man, and I don't mean a male, okay? I just mean a man, like a human, is the ability to admit when you're wrong. I was wrong and dumb for saying that. If I am not going to purchase a comic book, I will not do a review on that comic book. Unless, of course, that comic book is gifted to me. That's an entirely different story, so wrong is wrong, and I was wrong. Anyway, guys, purchased the comic book, read the comic book. Still not overly happy with the comic book, but I bought this comic book that I don't like too much. Anyway, it's actually not that bad. It's actually not bad, and I'm going to explain in a minute. So let's get into the Unity Saga. This particular, that's the name of this run. The Unity Saga, and this particular part is part 5 of the House of El. Brian Michael Bendis is the writer. Ivan Reis is the artist. Joe Prada and Auclair Albert did the inks, Alex Sinclair did the colors, and the letters were done by Josh Reed. Reese, Prado, and Sinclair did the cover, and the variant cover is by Adam Hughes. And of course, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created the mother effing Man of Steel. Aight. So this was basically a huge fight, and I felt that a lot of it was just Superman being a bully. Look, I get Brian Michael Bendis' love for the character. I do. I genuinely do. And no matter what anybody says, myself included, about how they feel about the comic book itself, I don't feel that Bendis doesn't love Superman. I think he loves Superman madly. And I think that Superman is in many ways a release for that nerd inside of us all. Particularly for Bendis, because he's actually the one writing this comic book. He's in charge of all things Superman related, basically, in DC. Well, just period. All right, in the comics. So he clearly loves the character. I myself am not a huge fan of Superman showing how strong he is because he's got something he's got to do. Look, if there's a time crunch on something, I get it, whatever. But here's the Thanagarians. Here's the... Shoot, I know the name of this other group. Actually, I know the name of the other 2 groups. Anyway, there's 3 groups, 3 races, all right, in total, 3 planetary entities, empires, basically. And they're not getting along. They're fighting. And he goes up to each one of them, and he intimidates them all to stand down. And they know who he is, so they do. Then all of a sudden, Granddad shows up, and he wants to have a conversation with Granddad. Now, is this because he's family, and you don't want to put a whooping on family? I know that we've seen him do that before, but let's be realistic. Brian Michael Bendis doesn't care too much for continuity. So if someone else, made it that they got into a fight with each other, and Bendis doesn't want to make them get into a fight with each other, he'll say that they never got into a fight. And that's just the way it is. So there's comic continuity, there's Bendis continuity. Go ahead, somebody prove me wrong. More than that, hashtag that, quote me, I made that up. Okay, so I think I did. I never heard anybody else say it. But... yeah, I'm not a fan of him doing that. Then all of a sudden, Rogal Zar shows up, and Dru-Zod shows up. Now, you ain't going to just bully these guys. You ain't going to push these around, especially not freaking Rogal Zar. So there's no conversation here. There's no pleading. There's no anything. Oh, but you already tried that. Yeah. You see, this is the problem with might makes right. There's always a bigger fish. There's always somebody bigger, right? So when Superman starts doing the whole might makes right thing, this is no different than with kids. I got 2 boys. They got a lot of energy, a whole lot of freaking energy. And if I just walk in there, like once in a while, I guess I can do it. But if I go in there in any sort of regularity and just like, stop now, and I'm just being the bully. Why, Dad? Or, do this. Why? Because I said so. This is just authoritarian. This is teaching your kids authority. Now, you might think that in some ways this is teaching your kids to be an authority figure. No, it's that much easier for when a cop comes along and says, do this, and they do it because, well, that's an authority figure. Yeah. It makes our kids weaker when we teach that. It makes races, it makes planetary people. This is just the kind of stuff that I think about. You know what I'm saying? It makes people weaker. It makes people lesser, more angry, more hostile when you do that. When we put negative out in the world, if you accidentally cut somebody off on the road and he gets, that person gets mad and flips you off, and then you flip the person off back again rather than going, I'm sorry, all you're doing is you're putting more anger out there, and you think that it's going to end. You're like, oh, I got him, haha, and you drive away. No, they're going to be pissed off. They might go home and beat their wife, beat their kids. They might go home or they might not even get home. They might, be pissed off for the rest of the day and, bother people at work. That stuff just keeps going. It feels karmic, right? It's worse. It's worse than that. So seeing Superman being a bully, I've never been a fan of that. I've never found that to be something that I want to see. And that's exactly what I see here. Superman just being intimidating. And then right away, what happens? It comes right back to him. I would love if Superman would address something like this, but why the hell would somebody like Bendis listen to somebody like me? I want Superman to be great. There's no, MSG, again, whatever the hell that is. Oh my God, it sounds like MRSA. If I say make Superman great again, it sounds like MRSA. Oh, that's actually really bad considering it's Bendis we're talking about. So yeah, that's not what I'm talking about in the first place. I'm just saying, he's already great. Superman's already great. Don't do this. Don't make Superman like that. Aside from that, this was just, the whole issue was just pretty much Superman being a bully. And then at some point, we realize this isn't going to work. Oh, but things get better because at the end, somebody else shows up and it's going to tip the odds in Superman's favor. That's great. Now, what about if Dru-Zod's family shows up too and evens it out a little bit more again? Right? Like, no matter what you do, there's always going to be something that's going to turn around and be like, screw you because, well, screw you. Might doesn't make right. And I get it. They're superheroes, but I'm a huge Superman and Captain America fan. I believe that it's more than just might makes right. I believe there's a lot more than just punching your way out of a situation. And that's what I look forward to in my comics, personally. Anyway, a lot of good fighting. And in all reality, I just recognize that one of the main reasons why I still love this comic book so much is because Ivan Reis. Like, the guy can just do no wrong. There's a couple scenes in here I don't want to show you. I want you to buy the book and actually check it out. Support Mr. Reis if you don't like Bendis. Support Reis. What do you call it? There's a couple scenes in here where Roel Galzar, like, it's an up close scene and Superman's right there, and it's actually kind of scary. It's like, oh wow, like that's how you make a character genuinely terrifying. Anyway, guys, that's it from me. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.